Dun dun dun. I'm back. I'm back. Another live stream designing. That's right, we're designing backgrounds today. We've done classes, we've done races or species or whatever the heck you want to call them. And now it's backgrounds. The apparently the least favorite, least useful thing in the Dungeons and Dragons 5e game for player characters. The least useful. I don't know that I agree with that, but anyway, we're gonna do this right today. I'm gonna put up a poll. Feel free to take part in that poll, and I'm going to be jumping into this topic fairly quickly. I have limited time today since I'm supposed to be somewhere else in about 2 hours, so we're going to get this done fairly fast. So grab some food, some drink, make sure you're comfortable, and we're going to get into this, covering the topic of remastering, fixing those backgrounds. Hi, welcome to How to RPG. My name is Fred Weller, and today I want to talk about tabletop role-playing games, and Dungeons and Dragons 5e is on the menu. Backgrounds. How do we fix those backgrounds? How do we remaster the backgrounds for Dungeons and Dragons 5e? Because they're a great idea, but were they actually implemented in a manner that would be useful? Now, I remember when Dungeons and Dragons 5e was first released, and people were just all aghast about how wonderful these were. They're all very role-play-y, and yet over time, as people have played the game, they've been relegated to being considered, apparently on the internet or YouTube, as being kind of like a nothing burger, what was the point? Well, I get a few proficiencies and skills and maybe a tool proficiency in a language. Who really cares? Really, give me something decent, like give me a combat feat, basically. Really, that's what it was. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to go over my intended goals and how I want to try to do this, and then show you a background and giving you an example of how I would go about remastering and fixing the backgrounds so they actually work the way you need them to in your game. Anyway, so backgrounds need to be simple. However, they can be implemented into character creation and the advancement of your character. It needs to be really, really simple, okay? Make sure that the backgrounds have features that don't make a character a superhero. For me, a background is not something that you are necessarily taking part in now. It might be something you've done in the past, which is why it's called a background. Not current ground, background. But also, too, it might be a life that you had before you're adventuring or you became a hero. It might still be quite active now, or at least not quite as active, but still active in some degree. I'm not concerned about backgrounds being balanced, but I'm going to do my very best to sort of follow a standard formula for them in terms of the mechanical way that they work, but I still think they need to mechanically work the way they should work. There is a tendency to allow backgrounds to have skills, and I don't think proficiency in skills is the answer. I actually think that's a red herring. I often see backgrounds that have skill proficiencies that I see no reason why that particular background should have that skill proficiency other than they couldn't figure out what else to put there. So I'm going to lean more into tool proficiencies and musical instruments and game sets, actually, to a large degree. I think a lot of the time we kind of forget that, the musical instrument and the game set is probably something that was used outside of our normal work hours. The thing that we use for entertainment, music and game set seems to be a good one to lean into. But tool proficiencies too, like, why don't we use them more? Oh, that's right, because all the rules for tool proficiencies are in a totally different book, not the Dungeon Master Guide. Anyway, leaning into languages, I really wanted to. I mean, even though it's fine to have a language assigned to a background, I feel like it would be probably quite smart to assign a lot of the languages that you get for your race or species and plonk them into backgrounds because that's where I think it probably lives, or should probably live. Anyway, they did a bit of work on Unearthed Arcana around backgrounds and how you could sort of a standardized system for building a background. And one of the things they did was equipment, where you would outfit your background and you get 500 gold coins worth of background stuff. I mean, sometimes that makes sense, sometimes that doesn't. I'm certainly willing to lean into that a little bit. Make the feature more robust to fit the narrative for some with some sort of dungeon master advice or guidance. I think, I think it's not set. I think it needs to be guidance. I find a lot of the stuff around backgrounds can be easily sort of overlooked by a dungeon master or a game master, just because they don't necessarily give you things that you can understand, particularly around the features. Background features suffer from this all the time, is it's so narrative, which is great, but there's no guidance for a game master as to how I implement that into the game, and sometimes we kind of hang on to too much. I have no intention of giving backgrounds a first level feat. Most of the feats in Dungeons & Dragons 5e are combat based. So really this is just, for me, this is really more about people want to turn Dungeons & Dragons more into a combat simulator rather than a tabletop role-playing game where we lean into playing something that we fantasize about. And maybe we fantasize about being a combat master who butchers everything. Maybe that's why people are leaning into this. But I see this as more of a product of people don't understand what to do with the features. That's why they put the feat in there, because that's mechanical. And so, okay, but so we're going to do something else with this. I'm not leaning into feats, but I'm not going to leave features for a background untouched. They're going to get some adjustment. I certainly think that retaining personality traits, ideals, bonds, and flaws. I find it amusing when somebody says to me, "Oh, you pick a personality trait, ideal, bond, or flaw, which you can actually make up. You don't have to follow the tables that are provided for each background." I find it amusing that when somebody says, "Oh, I never use my personality traits," so in other words, you never role play your character's personality at all. Really, is that it? Because even I, who have pulled back a lot from this sort of stuff, you still use the personality traits. And now ideals and bonds may change. Okay, they can change. These things can change. Personality traits tend to be pretty stable. But ideals and bonds might change. Are you telling me that you don't actually know what your character's ideal or bond is? Is it that nebulous? And then flaws, you telling me you don't know what your weakness is for your character? So clearly these things were designed to give you some guidance and remind you how to role play the character you are trying to play in the game, unless of course you're simply playing a stuntman or stunt woman who is there to butcher monsters and collect treasure. So I really get upset when I hear people think that those things are useless, and from the looks of 2024 they're going to get ditched. It looks like they're going to remove them completely. I will need to ensure that my home group likes and agrees with these. My home group is full of power gamers. So power gamers have this tendency to love combat mechanics. They really like it. And my group like that too. But they really love backgrounds too. And they're not very happy about what's going on with backgrounds. So I have to sort it out. Otherwise, we're going to just be using the Player's Handbook for 2014, we won't be using the backgrounds from anywhere else because they're not interested in what they've been doing. So that's not a good sign, particularly when my group is full of power gamers. Maybe not your power gamers, mine are older power gamers. Maybe it's a bit different. So I need to make backgrounds make sense to me too. There's a lot going on here. So I really wanted something that was a farmer. I was thinking about if you were a hero or an adventurer and you were going off on any kind of journey, it would make sense that you would be a farmer. Apparently there is no background for a farmer. Am I right about that? Is that correct? Or am I wrong? Did I not pay attention? Is that what we're going to have to make one day? So I picked the fisher. And I believe Shy X had figured out that I was going to be doing the fisher today. We will be doing the fisher. I will be going through the other backgrounds as well. But I wanted to sort of give you a kind of a nice baseline to work with. Hello, Osiris. How are you? Hey, that is what is wrong with MMO style D&D. Proficiency is good, but needs to be relevant. Yes, often things are not relevant. I would love a D&D based subsystem. Would be cool where we mix backgrounds into classes while not having a class in D&D in a D&D sense, kind of like Warhammer Fantasy role playing game. Yeah, but if you do that, you might as well just play Warhammer Fantasy, the tabletop role playing game. Hello, Derp. Yeah, I think what he means is MMO style D&D is you get things for your character that aren't really related to whatever it's trying to be. I think that's what he's trying to say, but he's clarifying it right now. Yeah, everything is combat focused. So let's now I can see the number of people watching is suddenly diminished. So if we've got rid of the people who thought that I was going to do backgrounds and turn them into combat engines, that is wrong. So I'll make that clear to you now. I'm not here to turn backgrounds into another way of buffing up your backgrounds and making you combat powered. That's not what they're intended for. My group would be very, very annoyed if I did that. One, because it doesn't fit at all with what we had discussed. Okay, so this is the background that I have selected for today. I have 50 minutes, roughly, to get this done and to show you what I would do to make it work in some way. And that's what I'm going to do. So by all means, put in your feedback, respond to the poll, and let me get cracking, shall we? All right, so first off, Fisher. So what is the Fisher? I'm going to go here bold. You have spent your life aboard fishing vessels. Almost immediately we know what this is. Or combining the shallows for a bounty of the ocean. Okay. Perhaps you were born into a family of fisherfolk, working with your kin to feed your village. Maybe the job was a means to an end, a way out of an undesirable circumstance that forced you to take up life aboard a ship. Regardless of how you began, you soon fell in love with the sea and the art of fishing and the promise of the eternal horizon. So here's the first thing that almost always pisses me off, is what the hell is history there for? I guess you could say survival would make sense as a skill, but there's not a single tool proficiency related to being on a fishing vessel. Did anybody notice that? I did. So this is basically the fisherman, or the fisherwoman, or whatever you want to call it, the fisher. They call it the fisher. Fisherman, or fisherman. I've got fisherman. The fisherman or fisherwoman. That's really what we're dealing with here. Okay. Whoops. Can I spell anything correctly today? Okay. It's quite early for me. I don't normally get up at this time. So this is where I would say we need to take a look at what a sailor does and what a sailor gets. It makes sense that one, you would be able to navigate seas. That would be my first thing that I would say with regard to the fisher, okay, is you should be able to navigate the ocean and seas, whether it's just your local area or whatever. That's something that should be very important. So fishing tackle, wonderful. A net, a fishing, your favourite fishing lure, or an oily leather wadded boot, set of travelling tools, all wonderful. Where the hell is the map? It would make no sense that if you had a background in fishing that you would have some sort of map to guide you. So I'm going to put map in here. I don't know how much they cost. Who cares? But I'm going to put map. Now, even if you're on a ship, most ships have a compass, right? Or you have tools to actually help you navigate in some way. But you should definitely have a sodding compass. It would be ridiculous not to have a compass. I want you to think about that a little bit. You're navigating a sea, okay, where you look in either direction and everything could be look exactly the same. It's just more ocean. So you need to have a compass to be able to navigate. So I'm putting that down. This history thing has got to go. This isn't nonsense. I'm interested to see what you guys are saying. I think background should give tool proficiencies, languages, an amount of starting money, some favor and hooks. And yes, I would agree. I would agree. You're certainly in the right direction that I was thinking. Why not call it an angler? I actually like that idea. Thank you, Otis. Otis, we're going to put angler. Because angler's not bad. That's pretty good. I like that. Angler. So I'm going to put fishman, fishwoman, and angler as our background. Okay, cool. Also, I think they should have nature and not history. No, I don't think nature's... So, yes. So, derp is on the track that I was leading down. When I thought about this and I was thinking, what do you do with this background? Tool proficiencies, navigator's tools. You should be proficient in navigating in some way. So, navigator's tools definitely needs to be there. Page 154. Yep, I totally agree. That is a tool set that you should probably have a proficiency in. So we're going to get rid of skills. Well, actually, we're not going to get rid of skills just yet. It's not gone just yet. We're going to go here, copy, because if you're building something like this, apparently the formula is pick 2 skill proficiencies, pick 1 tool proficiency, and pick 1 language and get some starting gear. That's sort of the ethos behind this. You know, I was looking at the Unearthed Arcana. So you've got a formula for this. But I agree. Navigator's tools. Nav. Now you're thinking, Fred, that's just like the sailor. Well, a fisher should be like a sailor, shouldn't it? It's just a slight variation, really. Navigator's tools. Okay, so we've got navigator's tools. What else should we be proficient with? Oh, I'm pretty sure there's something else. Isn't there another thing that you can be proficient with? Now that I think about this. All we need to remember is between our skills and tool proficiencies, we need to have at least 3 going on. 3 things. 3 things. And we're in we're in the zone. Let's have a look here. No, that's the wrong place. I'm flicking through the player's handbook, people, so just give me a second. Okay. Explosives and electricity. Hello, Mr. Welsh. How's it going, Glenn? You think a fisher should be proficient in explosives? I think we need to have a feat that says you are highly effective with explosives and electricity. Potentially rail guns as well, right? Okay. So we're going to add in vehicles, water. Water. Okay, there we go. We've got that one. So that means we now have more tool proficiencies than we do have skills. I'm going to put here survival or nature. I want you to think again about tool proficiencies and what would be the most sensible tool proficiencies to have if we had more. I don't think that necessarily having survival or nature as a skill proficiency is the answer myself. I think there's another way of doing this. Language is one of your choice. Now, I want to just take, normally most classes give you races. So most races give you 2 languages. It would make more sense just to fold that into here. Now, I know I haven't done that with the races. Or select 3 of your choice. Because most of the time you get 2 as part of your race. And I haven't done that with the races yet, but I probably will be. Folding languages into backgrounds makes much more sense to me. So that's why I've put this line here, and I'm going to highlight this. I don't think that is necessarily the way to go. I think we just change that a little bit. That would be better for a mad scientist background. I don't think that would be more useful for somebody who is not necessarily a mad scientist. I think that would be much more suitable for somebody who is, blows stuff up. The demo team on for a police organization, I guess. Maybe that would be it. Or a demolition team if you used to be a soldier of some kind. Okay, so that's where I'm going with this. The fastest way to get the fish up, that would be known. All right, you mean just electrocute them or blow them up? You destroy the fish itself. You probably would. Anyway, so let's just go with this. This is where my head is so far. And tool proficiencies, languages. Now, I'm going to warn you now, this top line, skill proficiencies, is really looking to be on the chopping block. Okay, I have every intentions of probably just getting rid of it. And the reason being is I have something else in mind. Anyway, let's go down here. Fishing tail. Now, I haven't put the table in for this, but I just wanted to have it there because I thought it was a little bit interesting. You can tell a compelling tale, whether tall or true, to impress and entertain others. Once a day, you can tell your story to willing listeners. At the DM's discretion, a number of these listeners become friendly towards you. This is not a magical effect, and continued ability of their part depends on your actions. You can roll on the following table to help determine the theme of your tale or choose one that best fits your character. Alternatively, work with your DM to create your own fishing tale. Okay. I'm going to come back to that. I'm not really sure that this is one of the problems with backgrounds. If you leave everything to Dungeon Master discretion, which I am very much about, you know what I'm like, okay? I play more as more characters than I Dungeon Master. I play characters more than Dungeon Masters. But the problem of Dungeon Master discretion, unless you have a Dungeon Master who's on board with something like this, the first thing they're going to probably look at is like, it's just, well, I just don't think it's worth bothering. I'm not sure what that's going to mean. It also means that for you as a person playing the game, you have no kind of guideline as to how this is going to work, or if it's going to work at all, or whether you're just wasting your time. How is this going to work? The fishing tail idea has merit, but how will it work? Okay, next. Feature. Harvest the water. Now, this feature here, like almost every single background feature, is one of the biggest problems that we have. What do you got here? A grenade in the pond doesn't destroy the fish. What sort of fantasy world are we making? I used to be common in some areas, and it is now specifically illegal. So I can assure you, if you're in North America and you're using dynamite to blow fish up, that's an American thing. Here in New Zealand, nobody goes and use explosives to blow up fish. If you did that, you would wind up in prison, okay, and fined. Prison and fined. Okay, so yes, I don't even consider it even a concept as far as I'm concerned. If you started using a rifle and shooting fish with a gun, you would wind up getting fined and imprisoned. It's very, very simple. You could argue for cooking tools for a fisherman. I would agree because they need to preserve them. I tend to agree. Crocodile Dundee 2 starts with him fishing with explosives. I'm sure it's a movie. It's a movie, and it's also Australia, and you have to understand, like, what happens in the Northern Territory of Australia. Those are crazy people, okay? They are nuts. And my father lived in the Northern Territory, okay? And I can assure you, he was out of his tree. Out of his tree. There's nothing sane about those people. Dear. Anyway, I know it's very cowboy western sort of style stuff, but seriously, yeah. It's the shockwave that brings them up. I'm sure it does, and the charge. We're going to stop trying to blow up fish. Okay, now, let's go back to... Now, where was it? Did we have a tool proficiency that was, in fact... Let's just make sure I get this right. I want to make sure I don't lose what I'm my point. I think I might have got lost on my point, but we'll keep going. We'll keep trying to do this. You were talking about cooking tools, and I'm just wondering, is it classified as a tool proficiency? Maybe it isn't. Okay, so looking at the different types of tool proficiencies that there are. So we have a number of different things. We have alchemist supplies, no. Brewery supplies, no. Calligrapher supplies, no. Carpenters, no. Cartographer's tools. You know, I feel like that might be bleeding too much into the sailor, so I'm going to say no. Cobbler's tools, cooking utensils. A tool proficiency. So in other words, that's actually a tool proficiency that makes a lot of sense. So we're going to take that one. And you're probably wondering, but Fred, why don't we get something for survival in nature? Just wait. Just wait. It's coming. Okay. And I'm going to go delete. And we're going to hit here. Cooks. Utensils. Cook's utensils. So I'm going to give them 3 tool proficiencies rather than 2 skill proficiencies and a tool proficiency. Ultimately, we're going to give them 3 languages. We're going to give them this. We're going to give them a... I think it's... What is it called? It's called a... is it a cook's something kit? Is it a mess kit? I can't remember. Mess kit? Mess kit? Yeah, it's called a mess kit. We're going to give them a mess kit as well. Net. Set of tools. Mess kit. Mess kit. Okay. All right. Now, back to here. This is where harvest the water. And I want to make a couple of little notes here. And that is nature and survival. Okay, there's a reason why there's a note for this. Pardon me, people. I'm jumping around a little bit, but we're getting there. You gain advantage on ability checks made using a fishing tackle. Really? So if you use a fishing tackle, and what about if you use a net? Do you not get advantage on using a net? It's really, really stupid. It is so narrow, okay, that it's almost never going to come up. Now, I'm all for giving them advantage on an ability check made to use a fishing tackle, but that's not enough. If you as a player are looking at this, you're probably thinking, what the hell did I take the net for? So let's add in a few things. Net. Let's add net. And what else does a fisherman or fisher or an angler use when catching fish? It's not just a net, isn't there? Don't say explosives. Okay, we're not putting dynamite in there. What else is there? Harpoon. I think we could say that a harpoon would be pretty reasonable. Do you know, even going fishing, it is actually quite common to use a bow, an arrow, and you'd fire a bow into the water. So a spear fishing, spear, harpoon would be for whales. We don't want to get too carried away, right? But also a fishing bow. Now, if anybody's any time you've ever gone fishing, if you're a modern fisher, you'll find that quite often, particularly for fish that are just close near the surface of the water and the water is clear and you're dealing with fresh fish and you're not dealing with salt water and the water's not deep, is you actually often use a bow, and you use it. An arrow is actually tied to a cord which is really light. You fire the arrow into the water. Usually you don't have to be that far away. You do have to judge reflection and angle. You catch your fish that way, and then you draw them back out of the water because the arrow has a head on it which is like the head of a spear. It's kind of like a triangle, so it'll go through the fish and then you just pull it onto the land. So if anybody else has figured out there are other ways of going fishing, this is what I would suggest to you. This is probably smarter to do it this way. You need to include a few different things. Nets. Let's give them a spear. They don't have that much that worth anything. Let's just give them a spear and fishing bow. A fishing bow is not really designed to kill people. It's really very different. Okay. Next. This sentence is still not going to work. You gain... Sorry. I can see people. Hello, Overboard. How's it going, Joe? I'm trying to keep track of the chat and do this at the same time. It's never going to come up. No, that's exactly my point. Look at the rules for foraging. See what the amount you get for bringing in food, and then just add that if you're doing it by fishing. Yeah. Do a variant of the Ranger's Nature Explorer, where you double the amount of food you get from foraging when you fish, and it's cumulative with the Ranger's ability, so that you bring up quadruple the food. I have a crossbow, fishing bolt, and reel. I believe you. So I didn't put down crossbow, but it's a bow. It's a fishing bow. Whether it's a crossbow or it's a short bow, they're usually not long bows. You don't usually use a long bow for this sort of thing. But that's where I'm going with this. That's why I wanted to include spear, harpoon. Okay, next. You gain advantage on ability checks made to fish for food when using a fishing tackle, net, spear, harpoon, and fishing bow. If you have access to a body of water that sustains marine life, you can maintain a moderate lifestyle while working as a fisher. So, really, that's for lifestyle. How many people use lifestyle? It doesn't come into play very often. It's very, very, very rare. You can catch enough food to feed yourself and up to 10 other people each day. Now, I'm not against this. This essentially means that you don't have to worry about taking rations. But if you're on a ship, you probably got supplies anyway. So this isn't necessarily going to come into play that often, unless, of course, you're traveling across land and you're using rivers and streams and maybe a lake to fish for food. But it's not the only thing that a fisher does. If you're a fisher person, an angler, that is not the only skill. Just catching fish is actually not the only thing that's important. Harvester water. I feel like harvester water needs to be called something else, because we need to put in some other things in here. One of the things that you'll notice is that if you are into fishing, angling, you need to have a really good understanding of weather. So your ability to look at the sky and determine if there is bad weather coming is going to be pretty good. Okay, you need to be able to keep an eye and figure out how that works. Tides and currents, an understanding of tides and currents. So, and I'm not suggesting any of these be magical in any way. So, nature, weather prediction. It's about experience. Weather prediction, but also tides and currents. I'm just making notes here right now. I haven't put anything down. If you're fishing, you don't use a spear more than you would use a trident. What do you got here? If you're fishing, you don't use a spear more than you would use a trident. That's not true. So Glenn, I don't know where you live, but I live in New Zealand, and we have things called mangroves and mudflats, and mudflats do not have a lot of water on them, so quite often you would use a spear over a fishing line, and that's usually to catch things like flounder, because you can see the flounder. They sit very quietly, but you can move slowly up to them and you can spear them. Even the rock cod, which I wouldn't eat because they taste pretty bad if you ask me. So there are plenty of times that spearfishing is a thing. And if you go to other parts of the world, and you're probably aware of this, Glenn, spearfishing is a thing. It's not the only way of fishing, but, you know. So spearfishing is a thing. I know because I've seen it done, been involved, and yeah, it does happen. Maybe not as much as using a line or a net. I find often setting traps is probably the... it's not even really called a trap, is it? I can't remember the name of it. Anyway. Haven learning to look in the window to deck and rain, unlike the TV. Yeah, the TV with a guesser. Yeah. Dear. Okay, suggested characteristics. Let's just go here. Fishers succeed only if they spend time at their job. As such, most fishers have a strong work ethic and they admire others who earn their living honestly. Fishers tend to be superstitious, forming attachments to particular fishing lures or special fishing spots. They have a connection. This is not superstition. Being drawn to a specific fishing spot is actually a product of experience. They know where the fish are. I think they've kind of lost that. Yeah, anyway. They have a connection to the body of water in which they fish. They think poorly of those whose actions adversely affect their livelihood. Yes. So, now, for this bit, I'm going to just write this down. Instead of having a table of things, I always felt like this was sort of unnecessary. But the way that they have the tables is really for a beginner who isn't able to sort of come up with their own ideas. But this is what I'm going to write here. Create for your characters background a personality trait, ideal, bond, and flaw. And the game already explains what ideals, bonds, and flaws are. You know what a personality trait is. That shouldn't be too difficult. Okay. And we'll add that in there. That's it. That's nice and simple. Frog jigging. Yeah, I guess this is maybe a cultural thing. Glenn and Fred. maybe it's just cultural because we live in different parts of the world, so the way that we go about fishing is a little bit different. I mean, Australia, I've seen the short bow and a line connected to an arrow more often than I have seen a crossbow used. But different things for different people. Okay, so we need to come back to this bit here. We're running out of time, and I need to be able to lock down the basics of this so that I can show you how to pull out the rest of it. So let's go back to fishing tale. You can tell a compelling tale, whether tall or true, to impress and entertain others. Once a day, you can tell us your story to willing listeners. So this is where my problem always starts, is why once a day? At the DM's discretion, a number of these listeners become friendly towards you. This is not a magical effect, and continued ambiguity on their part depends on your actions. You can roll on the following table, blah, blah, blah. See, all of this, it's going down the right way, but it hasn't actually done anything that would be useful or interesting to you. So this is what I'm going to suggest, is we rewrite this to make it a little bit more useful to you, okay? You're still dealing with Dungeons & Dragons 5e. So you can tell a compelling tale, whether tall or true, to impress and entertain others. Forget about once a day. When you tell your story to a willing listener, you have advantage on the ability check if required. So that would apply to something like deception, persuasion, okay, to a willing, right, so when you tell your story to a willing listener, you have advantage on the ability check if required. And we're going to put here persuasion or deception. Sometimes these backgrounds just needed a little bit of mechanics put into them. You know how I feel about mechanics. I'm always like, no, we don't need more mechanics. Try to make it less mechanic-y. This is one time when backgrounds probably needed to have more of this. Ravenlaw. Hello, Ravenlaw. Wow. Nice to have you. To have you nice. For those of you who don't know, Ravenlaw has a YouTube channel. Something like the entertainer feature. Fishing tales are almost never true or believable. But they are often good stories. That's the most important thing. At the DM's discretion, no, we're going to get rid of this. The listeners become friendly towards you. This is not magical. And continue ambiguity on the part of it depends on your actions. And I can leave this bit here. The table thing is fine. It's just really okay. Alternatively, so that's this here. This here requires the table to be there. I'm not going to color it yellow because it's actually not. It's not an issue for me. I'm just graying it in. Okay, just so you know. That's all it really needed to have with this. Somebody had mentioned the entertainer in terms of the feature for the entertainer. Is the entertainer feature actually written better? I'm not sure that I believe it is, but it'd be interesting to see. Entertainer. What have they got here? By popular demand, you can always find a place to perform, usually in an inn or tavern, but possibly with a circus, at a theatre, or even in a noble's court. At such a place, you receive free lodging and food of a modest or comfortable standard, depending on the quality of the establishment. as long as you perform each night. In addition, your performance makes you something of a local figure when strangers. So this feature sort of, when the fish, it doesn't really, yeah. Okay, all right. Let's just leave it at that. I think that's what the fishing tail should probably do. Now, back to this. This is where Xanathar's Guide to Everything should be important, because we have some tool proficiencies in this, which gives us an opportunity to see how they would pull out the different things and how that might work mechanically for our fisher. So, where is it? God, please tell me I can find it fast. Downtime, tools. Downtime. I'm sure I found tool proficiencies in here. My eye's that bad I can't find it now. Tables, magic items, tying knots, tool proficiencies, 78. There it is. 78. Sorry about that, people. So let's have a look at tool proficiencies. 78. Remember, we have a number of them. We have 3. So we don't need the alchemist supplies. We don't need brewers. Cartographers supplies. No, not interested. We don't need carpenter's tools. No, that's not the one we want. Cooking utensils. One of the problems with having a tool proficiency and not having some mechanics around that is probably a problem. So what we need to do is we need to do something with it, and we'll come back to that because it's probably the last thing I'm really interested in. But we've got cooking utensils. Let's keep going. We have herbalism, jewelry, land and water vehicles. Here we go. This is the really important one, and the navigator's tools, which are all on page 82 and 83, for those of you who don't know. So here we go with land and water vehicles. How can we make the fact that we know how to use a water vehicle like a fishing vessel or a boat, how do we make that and tie that into this feature? This is where we should have a bit of meat and potatoes to it. Proficiency with land vehicles covers a wide variety range of options. Okay, from chariots, howdies, wagons and carts. Proficiency with water vehicles covers anything that navigates waterways. Proficiency with vehicles grants the knowledge needed to handle vehicles of that type, along with knowledge of how to repair and maintain them. So first of all, what I would suggest to you is we need to have something around that. It's pretty obvious if you say you can use the water vehicle, that's fine. But it doesn't actually state that, hang on, you can actually repair the vehicle and do other things. This is where Xanathar's Guide to Everything has actually done a really good job. Repair and maintain, okay? So let's go here. Body of water, da-da-da. I'm going to put this underneath. I might even separate it off into another thing. And make it a separate feature. We'll see. Water navigator. Let's just call it that for now. You know how to handle any water vehicle that travels along the surface of a ocean, sea, lake, river, or stream, and repair the vehicle. Let's put that in there. That probably should be there. So we're going to make it there. All right, let's go here, bold. I don't need a full stop there. Okay. That's our first little bit here. Let's keep going. Xanathar's Guide to Everything, people. A lot of your solutions are going to lie in there. In addition, a character proficient with water vehicles is knowledgeable about anything a professional sailor would be familiar with. This is why I've taken a lot of the tool proficiencies from the sailor over, such as information about sea and islands, tying knots, and assessing weather and sea conditions. So let us take now. I wonder if I can pull a lot of this straight out of D&D Beyond. That might be a bit quicker. And if I go to sources and I go to Xanathar's going to be easy to pull up or not. View all sources. Oh, there's Xanathar's Guide to Everything. Ah, bum. Xanathar's. Wayfarer. Ah, there we go. Xanathar's Guide. Okay, so we just need to go to the chapter, which is not on traps. Tool proficiencies. Here we go. So let's go with land and water vehicles. Advantage. And we go to here. What do I have here? I had cooking utensils. I've got to do cooking utensils at some point, don't I? Adventuring is a hard life. With cooking along a journey, your meals will be much better in a mixture of hard tack and dried fruit, blah-de-blah-de-blah. Your knowledge of cooking techniques allows you to assess the social patterns involved in a culture's eating habits, whatever. When administering treatment, you can... doesn't make any sense. When foraging for food, you can make do with ingredients you scavenge that others wouldn't know. Preparing meals. As part of a short rest, you can prepare a tasty meal that helps condition up to 5 creatures, 1 extra hit point. That would be all right. I don't know that we necessarily need to spell that out. Do you know what I mean? I think we can just tie that and connect that pretty easily under our fishing, our harvesting ability. So let's take this. As part of a short rest, you can prepare a tasty meal that helps your companions. And let's do this. Really, we're dealing with that bit there. That's the thing that probably should sit there. So you can catch the food and you can cook the food. Because that would make sense. As part of a short rest, you can prepare a tasty meal that helps your companions regain their strength. You can up to 5 creatures. 5 creatures of your choice. So there's no point sort of stipulating a... I mean, 5 is basically your party, right? Your choice. Regain 1 hit point per hit dice spent during a short rest, provided you have access to your cook's utensils and sufficient food. So that's what I would put there. I would just take that bit and plop it in there. Okay, next. Tying knots. Yeah, we're going to get there. I'm just trying to catch up a little bit. All right, let's go down. Forget about the other stuff. Disguise kits, water vehicles, game sets. No, we're not dealing with game sets. Blowing, glass blowing, herbalism, jeweling, land. Okay, here we go. This is what we want. Okay, a character proficient with water vehicles is knowledgeable about anything a professional sailor would be familiar with, such as information about island insets, tying knots, and assessing. Okay. Let's take this and let's put this here. Tasks and information. Okay, and information. You have advantage. Whoops. On ability checks involving tasks and oops, now why have I got this in a different okay, it didn't copy over the way I'd hoped. Where is it here? Let's just grab this, see if I can fix that. Pretty sure it's Arial and 11. Arial 11. Okay, cool. Is it a different color as well? It might be. Or is it just my eyes? I can't tell. Text color. It's black. Okay, cool. Okay, you have advantage on ability checks involving tasks and knowing. God, it's doing that again. Okay, I'll deal with it later. Knowing information about sea and islands, about the sea, islands, tying knots, and assessing weather and sea conditions. That's what we should have here for a fisher. That would make sense. For a sailor, it would also make sense for a fisher. So that's what I wanted to put in here. And I'm almost out of time, but we're going to get there, don't worry. When you study a magical vehicle, this proficiency aids your recovery. No, we're not dealing with that. When you inspect your vehicle for clues, for hidden information, your proficiency aids you in noticing things that others might miss. Again, I don't think that applies. When piloting a vehicle, you can apply your proficiency bonus to the vehicle's armor class and saving throws. Again, I'm not sure that that's really what we're after. Okay. But what we do need to do is we need to go back here and look at navigation. So you know how to handle a vehicle that travels along the surface of an ocean, sea, lake, river, or stream, and repair the vehicle. You have advantage on ability checks involving tasks and knowing information. Now, why is this doing this again? Let's get rid of that. Arial, shrink it. That's better. Okay. Knowing information about the sea, islands, tying knots. And I think we really need to add in a few other things here. We need to put in something around, and I think harvesting is probably where I need to put it in here. I need to put it in here as part of that. I'm jumping around a little bit. Sorry about that, people. You don't need to make an ability check to know basic information about marine animals unless the difficulty class is hard, which is a DC 20, not a 15, 20. if you are required to make an ability check to know about marine animals and beasts, you have advantage. There's a lot of advantage going on here. All right, so this is a lot bigger than it was before. Beasts. Whoops, dice roll. Dice roll. Okay, cool. Getting there. I'm out of time, but I need to finish this, so let's make sure we include all the things that we need to have here. You know how to handle any water vehicle that travels along the surface of an ocean. Yes. You have advantage on ability checks involving tasks and knowledge. Yes, we've got that. What was the other thing that I needed to make sure we did? Go back to Navigator's Tools. Oh, that's what I was going to say. You don't need to make. I know some people will realize they don't need to do this, but you don't need to make ability checks to handle a water vessel, unless you are in extreme weather like a storm. In which case you have advantage on the dice roll. Okay. I need to keep going here. So, knowledge about it. Deer islands, tying knots, tides, currents. What else did I want to hear? And I think that was it. Okay. All right. Let's keep going. Hi from East Yorkshire, England. Oh my gosh. Is it Garion of Revere? Dad, it's got to be really, really early in the morning for you. Welcome to live stream. Anyway, I was working my way through Navigator's Tools, and we've done Navigator's Tools, we've done harvesting the water, and we've done the fish's tail. So this background works better, I think, in my opinion, than it did before. And we've done a lot of just let's give them advantage rather than proficiency. Do you know why I reckon advantage is a better idea? It's because your proficiency is a +2 when you start out. And if you've been doing this all your life, before you became a hero or adventurer, you're probably better at handling a water vehicle as a fisherman or an angler or a fisherwoman. You're probably better at handling a water vehicle, a boat or something like that, than you are handling a sword, because you've been doing it for longer. So I actually have no problems with advantage essentially as a +5. I think that's quite reasonable, actually. I think that's perfectly fine. Mathematically, advantage is like a +5 if you think about the numbers and then you do your bit of number crunching, right? So that's fine. We're staying with keep it simple, don't use numbers, advantage, disadvantage. And this is where I think it should sit. And by actually spelling out what you get, it makes it easier for you as a player to determine what you'll be good at and what you won't be good at, and for a game master to help adjudicate that whole process, because they don't have to sit there and decide, well, what do I give them? Do I give them a +1 or +2? Do they just have to do a straight roll? Do I give them advantage? I mean, what are we, how far does having a background as a fisher or an angler really go? So let's just go all the way. That would be my approach to this. So I'm just going to do this because I had no intentions of keeping languages in the races anyway. And it's say three. Select 3 of your choice. I don't care. After that, it's not a big deal. And for those of you who say, most people in the world don't know 3 languages. I hate to say it. If you live in certain parts of the world, a lot of people only know 1 language. I know 1 language, but I know many people, far more people, who know 2, 3, or 4 languages. And that's just in our real world. This is not a fantasy world. The number of languages that you know is ultimately more useful for you, because at least your players have got a better chance of talking to somebody rather than shoving a sword in their gut or blowing them up with magic. So I'm all for it. Let's do that. So have we actually, I think we have harvesting the water. We've covered this. So we've given them 2 different things that you get, not just 1. We're still going to keep the personality traits, ideals, bonds, and flaws, but you just make them up. I don't think you need to have that much help around that sort of stuff. If you need a table, then we make a table, but I think it's fine. Water navigator. So we've got water navigation as a thing. So it should be obvious now that we have at least listed a bunch of different things that the game master can look at and say, okay, you get advantage on that. It's all very well giving you a very narrative thing, but if you don't give some guidance around this stuff, game masters get confused. They're just not too sure. What we probably should also do with regard to things like sea, islands, tides, current, blah, 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 is we should probably use something like this for water navigator. You don't need to make ability checks to, unless the difficulty is, I think we should have a line like that in there as well, frankly. So let's go here. Let's go copy. And you have advantage on objections. No, I think actually that's fine. We've dealt with that in our last sentence, so that's actually perfectly fine. So we don't need to worry about bringing that down. We've basically said unless it's a storm, you don't need to worry about how you handle your vehicle. It's really the storm that's going to be the big thing, and you're probably familiar with storms if you're a fisher. You've probably done it before. It's not something new to you. You would come across storms, and you probably also have to avoid them. So I'm all for that. I think that is a much better job. So let's go through what we did, and then I better get the heck out of here. So instead of having skill proficiencies, we've given the fisher, which is basically a fisherman, an angler, fisherwoman. We've given them navigator's tools as a tool proficiency, water vehicles as a tool proficiency because it makes sense, and also cook's utensils so they can cook the food. Okay. Next, languages. Instead of 1 language, we gave them 3 languages because I'm taking the languages from the races and plopping it into the background. I'm not using ability score improvements in backgrounds. I know that's kind of the current thing you see in Unearthed Arcana. Couldn't care less about that. Okay, I've just locked it down to the race or species because we follow the same formula most of the time for all of them. Equipment, fishing tackle, a net, a spear. So I'm going to put fishing spear. Fishing spear. Fishing bow, favorite fishing lure or oiled leather wad boots, a set of traveler's clothes, a mess kit for cooking your fish, a map, because you should have a map if you're a fisher, a compass, a belt pouch containing 10 gold pieces. That's it. Cool. Next, fishing tail. So you can tell a compelling story, and when you do so, a willing listener, you have advantage on an ability check, whether it's perception, persuasion or deception, and they become friendly towards you. It's not a magical effect, so there is some guidance like, okay, so I'm going to get advantage when I try to tell a story and get somebody on my side and become friends, and use it as an icebreaker. That's very role play. I like that. Great. And it's very much what fishermen do. They do tell stories. That's their thing. Next, harvest the water. So we've actually got some mechanics around this now, rather than just a little bit of, you can do this. We've talked about how you can you get advantage on an ability check when you're fishing for food, using a fishing tackle, net, spear, harpoon, or a fishing bow. And you can get enough food to feed 10 people each day. So as long as you have a body of water to work with, you're all good, okay? I know a lot of people are going to be like, why do you want to just do that? Because that just eliminates the survival aspect. You know, the survival aspect is gone now. It's just gone. Gone. So you can catch enough food to feed yourself and 10 people each day in normal environments. Environments. I think that's right. Environments. Did I get that right? Environments. No. There we go. As part of a short rest, you can prepare a tasty meal that helps your companions regain their strength. You can up to 5 creatures of your choice regain 1 extra hit point per hit die spent during a short rest. I don't think that's a big deal, provided you have access to your cook's utensils and sufficient food. You don't need to make an ability check to know basic information about marine animals unless the difficulty class is hard, DC 20. If you are required to make an ability check to know about marine animals and beasts, you have advantage on the dice roll. This gives us a little bit more to work with. And yeah, it's a mess kit, cook's utensils. Mess kit is the cook's utensils. So yeah, we're all good. Keep going. Is there a cook's utensils thing? I'm just trying to think about it now. Oh, I better make sure I got that right. Sorry, people. Hello, Shy X. Just give me a second. I'm just going through this. I might have made a mistake. I'm pretty sure, is there actually a thing called cook's utensils? I think it's just the mess kit. I'm pretty sure it's just the mess kit. But now I'm second guessing myself. I don't think there is cook's utensils as such as gear. It's just the mess kit. Let's see, mess kit, mess. Make sure I get this right. It's a tin box, contains a cup, simple cutlery. The box clamps together, and one side can be used as a cooking pan, and the other side as a plate or a shallow bowl. So it's not actually cook's utensils, is it? Oh, have I ballsed things up a little bit? I'm just wondering if maybe I needed to put a different thing there. Cook's utensils is a tool set. Okay, so it's not the mess kit, it's the cook's utensils. Let's do that. Sorry, people. Cook's utensils. Let's give them that as well, so that I don't have to go and find out. It's like cook's utensils is like 1 gold piece. It ain't a big deal. Okay, we're all good. Hell, let's give them the mess kit as well. All right, they want to carry it, stick it on a meal. Right, back down here. Sorry, people, I got a little bit distracted. Next, water navigation. So we know how to handle a water vehicle that travels on water, basically. You know how to repair it as well. It states this. We actually got it in the line. You have advantage on ability checks involving tasks and knowing information about the sea, islands, tides, currents, tying knots, Assessing weather and sea conditions. Now, I'm going to include water vehicles because I know this is going to be a problem otherwise. Vehicles. Assessing weather and sea conditions. You don't need to make an ability check to handle a water vessel unless you are in extreme weather like a storm, in which case you have advantage on the dice roll. There we go, we've got that. Suggested characteristics, you just sort out your personality traits, ideals, bonds, and flaws. That is how you make a background that fits the flavor of the background work. You don't give them a sodding feat or give them truck in the skills. That's not the solution. That's the solution, if you ask me, at least for the fisher, in my opinion. And I'm going to keep doing this. I don't know how popular they're going to be. I suspect they're going to be really unpopular, that not very many people are going to be interested. I think if Wizards of the Coast had actually paid attention to what the backgrounds were supposed to do in the first place, that they would look like this. And I'm going to ask my group tomorrow whether they think I'm on the right track. And then they'll tell me if I did a shit job or not, because that's how they work. Or they'll tell me if I'm on the wrong track. That they'll do that as well. So, yeah. So I'm going to end this poll here. Just gone midnight, but I've got a day off tomorrow. Well, it's nice to have you anyway. Most people never got more than a day's travel from home. Yeah. If you were fishing, though, it's a little bit different. So you might have to get into a boat and go fishing. Doing well. Came late, but background's main strength is the PC and the DM playing into it. Yes, it is. And we need some guidance for players, and we need some guidance for dungeon masters. And right now, there's in backgrounds, there isn't enough. Advantage, surf the item. Oh, stuff the item with the item. Advantage with the item. I think that's the easiest way to solve a lot of the problems with backgrounds, is just to use the advantage mechanic. It's a simple fix. Do you think backgrounds for Dungeons & Dragons 5e needs fixing? Yes. 57%. Well, more than half. Undecided, 21%. Just watching, 14%. No, 7% out of 14 votes. So that means I think most people realize and acknowledge there is something wrong with backgrounds. And I would say the biggest problem is actually the feature. It's always the feature, because it's too narrative. There's not enough guidance around it. We've done a lot more guidance around it this time around. And I want to come back. My intention is to try to do every single background in the player's handbook. Every single one. And if there are some additional backgrounds and different supplements that people would like me to do, then I'll do them. We might interchange backgrounds and doing something on races, and eventually doing some more of the class stuff. But I think right now we've covered 7 classes, and I feel that the rest of the classes, the sorcerer we have to finish. I feel like the sorcerer is not a big push one, because it's hello Dungeons and Chronics. Primarily because we have a wizard. We have a wizard, so why do we really need a sorcerer? I will do the sorcerer, but give me some time to fix that up. And then the warlock, you know, the bard, the paladin, and the druid. The druid's the only one that I feel like is standing out and really needs some attention. The other ones, they're kind of like nothing burgers, if you ask me. I don't feel like they have a strong theme behind them, which is why I'm not rushing to deal with them right now. Shy X, I like urchin for moving fast, nobles, NPC helpers. Really strong features. Well, do you want me to do the urchin next time? Next week, I could do the urchin. We could cover the urchin next week. We're definitely not going to do the sailor because it's too much like the fisherman. But I would be happy to go through and let's retool the urchin so that it works a bit better than it does right now. Because right now it doesn't work that well. Not really. It's like it's fun, but that's all it does. It's fun to think about it. That's it. Anyway, I'm out of time. I got to go. I apologize. I'm running a little bit late. I want to thank everybody who's been here watching and listening. I really do appreciate it. If you took part in the poll, thank you so much. I want to thank my patrons who support me on Patreon. Yes, I will be putting these backgrounds up onto Patreon, but probably not right away. I'm going to sit on them a little bit longer, okay? Just until I get rid of my day job being full-time. I need to have a lot more time to sit down and make sure I'm doing this right. So yeah, don't expect them to go onto Patreon this week or in the next couple of months, because I've got about 3 months before my mortgage is gone. Okay, but I will certainly be looking at doing them, putting them onto Patreon in the future, once I'm happy with them and my players are happy with them as well. At least the first draft. And then, yeah, so those people have been in the chat. Look, thank you for being here and commenting. So Garion of Riviera, of Rivar, Shy X, Dungeons and Chronics, thank you for being here. Fred Huber, of course. Ravenlaw, Osiris, really do appreciate it. Mr. Welsh, Glenn, thanks for hanging out. Overboard, who's also a patron, a moderator. Fred Huber is the patron. And I think we had Derp in here as well? Derp is a patron as well. Thanks for hanging out and commenting and giving your feedback. I really think that this is going to be a lot of fun, going through the backgrounds and doing a lot more with them to actually flesh them out so they have a bit more mechanics behind the intent. And yeah, look forward for it into the future. So wherever you are in the world, whether it be the morning, the afternoon, or the night, please look after yourself, your family, and your friends. Be nice to your neighbours. And hey, till next time, keep rolling those 20s.